Bless up guys, Yannick Reed here and welcome back to the YouTube channel. As I mentioned before, my name is Yannick Reed, visual creative from Kingston, Jamaica, and in this channel we like to talk about tech, creativity and lifestyle, focusing on photography and videography. So if you like that, just hit that subscribe button for more videos just like these. I was on Twitter and someone asked me a really good question that I should make into a video. The person asked, what is a good rule of thumb of when to rent equipment versus buying equipment? So with these questions, it's not really a black and white yes or no question, or do it this time and do it then, but I can give you like an example scenario that can help to guide you as to when to buy versus when to rent. So I think a good way to kind of, compress it, that's the word. I think a good way to compress it is you rent equipment that you won't need outside of a particular job. So probably when you're starting your creative journey, right? Photography or videography, you will probably seek to own a camera, which is a good thing. And you'll probably be doing jobs here and there. You'll probably just charge people just your labor fee. You see, as you kind of go up the tier in production into like medium and larger scale shoots, you should be charging for your equipment separate from your labor services. Meaning, if it costs you $100 to do this shoot, that's your labor fee, and then you have your equipment fee separate. That it gonna cost you $100 for me to use my camera, $50 to use my monitor, and $20 to use my mic. These are all just hypothetical numbers, because obviously from understanding that your labor is different from your equipment, your wear and tear, because it should not be assumed that you will always be using your equipment, and that's how we kind of get into renting. For example, like music videos that I have done, I have rented camera equipment that is superior to the equipment that I own to do that music video. I don't need to own this equipment. It would be nice, but obviously, like probably everybody who's watching this video, we don't have an infinite supply of money. The client has a budget. Like say if the client have $1,000 and it will cost $100 to rent a Blackmagic or a Red, you don't have to buy a Red for the job, but you rent the Red and you use the Red for the job, and you give it back when the job is over, and you collect your money for your labor, and you give the rental person their money for the Red or the Blackmagic, yeah? Because realistically, it don't really make sense for you to be going around and buying every single thing. But obviously there's a criteria into where you say, when should I really buy something or own something? So I can best speak to photographers and videographers. I know there's other creatives in the field who have equipment, but I can best speak to you guys. If you're starting out, I would think it is best to get yourself something low to medium tier in terms of camera wise, because you want to use your own equipment to learn the techniques of photography and cinematography. Okay, I know what kind of shot I want, I'm competent with using this camera, I have an idea of how to edit. You use your personal equipment to make sure you have an idea of how the thing works. So even if you rent the camera, it is not that you're starting from zero, but maybe you're starting from 50%. So you have your little personal equipment. Based on the tier of the job, you rent something that matches the tier. It may be very feasible that you rent a Red camera or a Arri camera to do a particular project, but you don't have the money to own it, and that's totally okay. If by some chance you are making enough money to own one of these cameras, it may be a good venture to purchase these cameras, because you can also make back money by joining the rental space and renting out your equipment to others. For example, this Blackmagic Pocket 4K, this is a camera that I use for work. I don't use this for YouTube or small personal projects. I literally only use this when I am working. To own this camera without a demand of work that allows me to make back the money spent on this camera wouldn't really make sense. If I was only really just doing YouTube and I'm not making any money from YouTube like that, it wouldn't make sense for me to sink all of my income into a camera like this where I won't make back the money. because if I don't have the job to pay for this, it don't make sense. Because even if I have the jobs and I put in this camera and I say, alright, I'm doing a professional job by using this, I'm going to charge the client a rental fee to use this equipment because it's high tier equipment. And anyway, otherwise, not because I own it means that I'm going to let you put wear and tear on it for free based on your budget. If I didn't have the work, I wouldn't own this. And if you don't really see yourself having like a big tier of jobs, that it's not frequent that you're doing jobs where you're renting a certain tier of equipment, don't buy that camera. But if you see if yourself, you don't even have to really own a camera, it's good to. But say you have a job and you're renting medium format, or you rent a high megapixel camera, and you see you do that maybe 10 times or multiple times for the month, it can be beneficial for you to buy and own that camera, and then you add it as a rental fee when you're using it, and then you make back the money from it. You get me? I think that's really an easy rule of thumb. Maybe you buy a smaller version of something big to understand the concepts, be competent with larger equipment, and when you see you're doing a certain amount of jobs that matches the equipment that you rent frequently, then maybe it is a sign that it may be beneficial for you to own this, to make back money from renting it, as well as become even more competent. So I chose to own this because of just the amount of work that we're doing over at Indig. It didn't make sense to go through the trouble of renting a camera every single time. It made sense to own a camera and understand it as best as possible, so that this no longer becomes a thing to think about if we need to even just do a low budget project. We know we're starting from some good quality here. That is the end of this video. A quick and simple explanation. If there's anything that I forgot or anything that you really don't understand, you know that the comment sections are there. Just drop down a question in there. I'm there. I'm always seeing all the comments and I answer them as best as possible. Keep safe and continue to bless up yourself.